Today, we're diving into a really powerful psychological principle, one that pretty much shapes how the entire world sees you and treats you. It's Law 34, be royal in your own fashion. And, it's a concept that can totally change the game in your daily interactions. It all starts with the price tag you put on yourself.
I mean, seriously, think about it. We've all seen this play out, right? In meetings, at parties, pretty much everywhere. One person walks into a room and they just have this gravity about them. People lean in when they talk. Their ideas just seem to land with more weight. And then someone else, who might be just as smart, just as capable, can barely get a word in. So what is it? What's that invisible secret sauce they have that others are missing?
Well, according to this law, the answer is both incredibly simple and kind of profound. It's this: the way you carry yourself is what dictates how you're treated. See, people are always looking for little clues to figure out what you're worth, and the biggest clue you give them is your own opinion of yourself. If you project this vibe of insecurity, of being common, the world's just going to reflect that right back at you with disrespect. But if you project an air of royalty, of this deep, unshakable confidence in yourself, you basically inspire everyone else to see you that way too. It's all about acting like you're already wearing the crown. Now, to really wrap our heads around the power of this, and the danger too, let's look at two guys from history who put this law to the ultimate test. And wow, did they get different results. One was a king, born with a crown, who completely forgot how to wear it. And the other, a total commoner who just instinctively knew how to crown himself. Okay, so for our first story, let's head over to France in the 1830s and meet King Louis-Philippe. He came to power right after a revolution, so things were tense. And he made this huge, and as it turns out, fatal mistake. He figured that to win over the people and keep his throne safe, he had to act just like one of them. So he got this nickname, the bourgeois king, or the citizen king. And he did it on purpose. He got rid of all the fancy royal stuff, the crown, the robes, the big scepter. Instead, you'd see him just strolling through Paris with a plain old hat and an umbrella. His whole goal was to look modern, approachable, just a regular guy who happened to be the king. He was trying to send a message that the stuffy old monarchy was gone. But what he was really signaling was that he was nothing special. And boy, did that strategy backfire. Big time. Instead of winning people over, he just bred contempt. You've heard the saying, familiarity breeds contempt? This is the textbook case. By trying to be everybody's equal, he just erased the mystique, that little bit of distance that power really needs to work. For example, he treated the super rich banker, James Rothschild, as a buddy, an equal. And pretty soon, Rothschild wasn't just treating the king as an equal, but as someone beneath him. The magic of royalty was just gone. And this disrespect, it wasn't just coming from the rich guys. The old aristocrats, they looked down on him for his common tastes. And the working class, they didn't feel any connection to a king who was pretending to be one of them while living a life of luxury. Basically, he managed to alienate everybody. So by 1848, all that contempt just boiled over into another revolution. The citizen king had to run for his life, all because he personally dismantled the very aura of power that was supposed to protect him. All right, now for a complete 180, let's talk about Christopher Columbus. This guy was not a king. He wasn't even a nobleman. He was the son of a weaver. On paper, his destiny was to be, well, a weaver. But Columbus absolutely refused to let his humble beginnings define him. He got this law on a gut level. I mean, the contrast between these two is just mind-blowing. Louis-Philippe, a king who acted like a commoner, lost everything. Columbus, a commoner who acted like a king, gained a whole new world for Spain. You see, he didn't wait for someone else to tell him he was worthy. He set his own price from day one, and he set it ridiculously high. The demands he made to the kings and queens of Europe were just breathtakingly audacious for a guy with no ships, no crew, and a theory that most experts thought was nuts. First, he just invented a noble family tree for himself. Then he demanded this ridiculous title, Grand Admiral of the Oceanic Sea, a title that didn't even exist. He demanded to be the ruler of any new lands he found. And the kicker? 10% of all the money from these lands for him and his family forever. At first, the Portuguese court basically laughed him out of the room, but his self-belief was so intense, so solid, that eventually the Spanish monarchs must have thought, if this guy values himself this much, maybe there's something to it. And they caved, giving him almost everything he asked for. So what is going on here psychologically? Why did Columbus's insane confidence work so well when Louis-Philippe's attempt at being humble failed so spectacularly?
It all boils down to something the source material calls the strategy of the crown.
Okay, this is the absolute core of it. Your belief in yourself isn't just some private feeling you have in your head. No, it's a powerful energy that just radiates out from you in your posture, your tone of voice, your eye contact, your expectations. We all use mental shortcuts to judge people, and one of the biggest ones is mistaking competence for competence. When you genuinely believe you're destined for big things, you project that, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People start treating you according to that high price you've set for yourself.
The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche really hit the nail on the head with this one. He basically said that the most persuasive people, and Columbus was nothing if not persuasive, are totally overcome by their own self-belief. It stops being a cynical act. It becomes this genuine, deep conviction that is just hypnotic to everyone around them. That's the root of charisma right there, an infectious belief in your own destiny. So, we've gone through the history, we've talked about the psychology. That's all great, but how do we actually use this in our own lives? I mean, you don't have to be a king or an explorer to use the strategy of the crown. It applies everywhere, every day. The book lays out a few key tactics. First up, you've got the Columbus strategy. When you're asking for a raise or pitching a big idea, ask for more than you think is reasonable. Don't be shy about your ambition. Second is the dignity strategy. Think of the Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie. When he was in exile, people heckled him at the League of Nations, but he just stood there with this unwavering, regal dignity that made his critics look like petty children. And finally, there's the really clever gift strategy. This writer, Pietro Aretino, used to give gifts to his rich patrons. It's a subtle move that instantly frames you as an equal, not as some subordinate begging for a handout. But, and I can't stress this enough, there is a massive warning that comes with this law. There is a very fine and very dangerous line between projecting royal confidence and coming off as an offensive, arrogant jerk. And crossing that line, it can be an absolute disaster. For a perfect example of what not to do, look at King Charles I of England. His problem wasn't a lack of kingliness, it was a toxic overdose of it. He was disdainful. He looked down his nose at Parliament, at his own people. His royal bearing wasn't about lifting himself up, it was about putting everyone else down. And that kind of profound arrogance doesn't earn you respect, it earns you rage. And in his case, it led to a civil war that cost him his own head. So the lesson is crystal clear. Your goal is to radiate deep confidence, not contempt for other people. So as we wrap this up, the central takeaway here is that you can't just sit around and wait for the world to give you a crown. It doesn't work that way. It's an inside-out job. The whole process starts with you. You have to be the very first person to believe in your own worth, to place that metaphorical crown right on your own head, with your actions, your attitude, and your unshakable belief in yourself. In the end, the world is pretty much a mirror. It reflects back to you the value that you project. It's ready, right now, to accept whatever price you put on yourself. So, the question this law leaves us with is a simple one, but it changes everything. What price are you setting?